Good morning, everyone. It's Andrew with Supercharged Stocks. Welcome. Hello, Austin. Welcome here again as well. Today, we've got James Anderson, Chairman and CEO of Vangold Mining. Happy to have you here. Wonderful to introduce you to Austin. I think this is the first time you get to meet Austin.
That's right.
And definitely, we've got a lot we want to catch up on. You just announced Vangold's El Cubo acquisition. All done. That's great. We talked about it before, but it's complete. And we're also just going to run through kind of just everything as well, like where we're at today. Let some people who haven't heard about you, we'll do a quick recap on it, and we'll just get into some of the details at the near the middle end of the show.
Okay, that's great. Great seeing you again, Andrew. Nice to meet you, Austin. The name of the company is Vangold Mining. We've got silver and gold mining assets right in central Mexico, in Guanajuato, Mexico. And what we've managed to accomplish here over the last few months is to acquire a very substantial past-producing silver and gold mine. It was called El Cubo. It was operational up until November of 2019, so about 18 months ago. We bought that from Endeavor Silver Corporation, which deemed it to be maybe a little bit too small for them to move into the future, but it works very well with us. We'll be able to combine mineralized material, both from our Pinguico operation, which is about 8 kilometers away, and El Cubo itself. So the two together, we think we can make into Canada and Mexico's next silver and gold mining company, and we can refurbish that mill within a 5 or 6 month period. We only announced the final completion of this 2 days ago, so we're just taking a big deep breath, and then our next task, Andrew, will be to refurbish the mill.
I was going to say it's although we talked about 3 weeks ago that this was happening, it is still good whenever paperwork's done, everything's signed. It was like $7 million cash in stock, so everything's done. So you get at least maybe an afternoon just to kind of just go, okay, thank God.
Yeah,
and then you're off.
That was yesterday. That's behind us now. Now we have to move into the future.
Yeah, because things have moved very quickly in the last year and a half. Really, I was even saying to Austin, and all things considered, from first talking about looking at El Pinguico and what you had there, which is exciting all on its own, to now where you're at there's a lot of work that's been done to get you to here. Especially, for us trying to explain to Austin as well, is to get something to production. That's a very different story than most junior miners you have out there, which is we're going to explore either a greenfield or brownfield kind of opportunity and sell to a major. This is a very novel approach of actually having a company and producing.
Right. Yeah, you don't see that very often because it's difficult to do.
Yes.
When this opportunity presented itself last fall, and we started to do our due diligence on it, there's just a lot of really good things about it. When you talk to other junior companies, as you point out, a lot of them will brag about being maybe 3 years or even 5 years only to production. Yeah. Whereas we don't have to build a mill or build tailings facilities or get the tailings facilities properly permitted with all the environmental constraints.
Yes.
All of that is done. And it puts us in a position that I think is really light years ahead of many of our competitors.
For sure. There's very, very few. I can only think of one or two other ones off the top of my head that are this level of near-term infrastructure. You're fully financed up, production 4 to 6 months away, say. I'm not going to hold you to like work every weekend all night long, 16 hours a day, but you're probably doing it anyway.
Well, we're doing it anyway, but we've got a great team already in place in Mexico.
Yeah.
Hernan Dorado is on our board of directors, and will soon be coming. We will soon make him our chief operating officer, and he brings a team with him, and we've been building a team already, even prior to doing the final paperwork to acquire the asset and announce that just last Monday. But getting more people embedded in the company, that's really our next task. It's a very important task, but it's a relatively easy thing for Vangold to do. And when I say that, if you're talking about some of the other Canadian juniors, if you're putting a mine in production in the middle of Nunavut, Well, there's only so many people who are interested in doing that.
Yeah.
With our El Cubo operation being, only about 8 or 10 kilometers to the south of Guanajuato. Guanajuato is a beautiful old city. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. There's about 150,000 people who live there, and it is a mining center, right? So Endeavour Silver still has an operation just north of it. Great Panther produces gold and silver from really two different mines in the area. And Fresnillo, the world's largest silver mining company, has a presence there as well. Also, considering the fact that El Cubo itself only shut down about 18 months ago, there's still lots of people around who are looking for work, who have experience at El Cubo, and we've already hired about a half dozen of them with direct experience at El Cubo. Certainly, there are others who we can hire and bring from other places in Mexico as well. So a lot easier to attract really high quality people to a place like that. Rather, I don't want to pick on Nunavut, but some place way up north that's 3 weeks on and a week off, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Now, maybe for those of us that are just kind of getting introduced to Vangold for the first time, do you want to walk us through very quickly your guys' cash position and your market cap position as well?
Yeah. So again, that's changed very rapidly over the last number of months. Part of the whole closing process, and I thank you, Andrew, for saying that it went quickly, because it didn't necessarily feel that way in the driver's seat, right?
Yes, yeah.
But we ended up closing just under 17 million Canadian dollars in equity financing, as well as getting Bear to write a preliminary economic assessment on the combined operation of Pinguico and El Cubo for us, and that's up on CDAR now and on our website, so people can have a flip through that. And then closing the deal with Endeavour to acquire El Cubo itself. And that process too, because it's not just a mine, right? It's a mine and a mill and surface ground and 7,000 hectares of mining claims, and all kinds of other agreements that Endeavour did with other landholders or the utilities. All of that comes with the purchase price. So on closing, there was about, there was 42 different addendums to the purchase agreement. Austin, to your point about what our finances look like after that $17 million equity financing, we've got about 7.8 million Canadian dollars in the treasury currently. We will be spending that money fairly aggressively over the next few months to refurbish the mill and do development work that's necessary to be able to be moving material through that mill. I keep saying, by September, we'll see whether any time that we've lost over the last month or so in completing the deal doesn't kind of bump into that September timeline, and maybe we end up at October. I'm going to be able to discuss timelines better in about 10 days or 2 weeks as we organize that in Guanajuato. We've also announced in December a $7.5 million U.S. silver and gold loan facility. We continue to discuss that with the people who are going to be lending that money. They're very positive about moving forward with that. So over the next few weeks, we'll be just furthering those fine points in that discussion. So we'll have that money available to us as well.
And I love too with Bear's calculation here. I mean, they used a price of let me see here, 1527 gold and 1949 silver, which I think most people in this space would say that's very conservative, very safe numbers. But even using commodity prices of 22.41 an ounce silver and 1756 gold, your payback period is like 1.8 years. So it's just almost 2 years. You're gonna have a payback. Once again, those numbers I would say are very, very conservative as well. I think most people would say silver has a lot of upside, and gold, although it's been hit a little bit lately, I just don't see it dropping, a lot, to be perfectly honest.
Right. So I mean, in terms of the commodity pricing and the commodity pricing that Bear puts into PEA, Bear Dolbear's been a mining consultancy firm since 1911. So, you know, they've seen some ups and downs in the commodity cycles over the years. You know, and therefore they've got good reason to be conservative with their commodity pricing. If people want to, you know, attach a higher price, there are tables within the PEA that can do that. I think what's interesting about the PEA's conclusions regarding internal rate of return, which at those numbers, I believe the internal rate of return comes out to 344% or something. You know, which is very different than a lot of other PEAs. The net asset value, on the other hand, is fairly modest because the resource is fairly modest.
Sure.
And you know, that's the asset that we bought. From my way of thinking, though, I mean, these type of epithermal systems, these sort of narrow vein but good grade Central Mexican epithermal systems, El Cubo has been in operation on and off, but mostly on for 200 years, right? It's been a mining camp for 480 years. So I have very little worry about our ability to be able to put more good grade material in site for that mill. It's getting it up and running and getting cash flow, you know, reasonable amounts of cash flow for $100 million market cap company. You know, that's our main focus. That's our main driver. You know, finding additional material. We will get to that, and we are doing that right now with our drilling program at Pinguico.
Yeah, I don't want to get too over the top. I mean, you've got a lot of land and claims, but you also have like blue sky bonanza potential at Veta Madre.
That's right. Yeah. You want me to outline that a little bit, Andrew?
Yeah, you know, let's just we'll mention it. We won't go too much into it, but I mean, I like to let people know that, listen, this is near term, like real near term production. There's going to be revenue, there's going to be cash flow, but also I don't want people thinking that's the story. That isn't the end by any stretch of the imagination.
Right. And I think, you know, in the mining business and in the junior mining business, I mean, you know, people always want that sort of bonanza home run, you know, kind of look at things, and you know, we can deliver that as well. So our first project, Pinguico, it's a relatively modest land package, right? We've got many more claims now with the El Cubo acquisition, because we got about it's over 7,000 hectares in total in the whole mining camp. But at Pinguico, it's a fairly small land package, but it was the highest grade mine when it was operating 110 years ago. It was the highest grade mine in the Guanajuato area, which in this 480-year-old mining camp, that's saying quite a bit. Now, for 480 years, most of the mining that's taken place in Guanajuato is from this regional structure called Veta Madre, or the mother vein. And it extends, there's a surface expression of it that you can see for close to 30 kilometers. So 10 kilometers to our north, there's a famous mine called Valenciana, and that is now part of Great Panther's central Guanajuato mine complex. So they still mine there, you know, 400 years on. But in the 1700s, Valenciana was routinely producing somewhere between 40 and 60% of the entire world's silver. Right.
Oh, wow.
Now we've got what we think is a similar exploration target on our property. So we sit in the hanging wall of the Veta Madre. Veta Madre was mined by Fresnillo immediately adjacent to us for 30 years, from 1972 until 2002. And they mined on Veta Madre to within about 250 meters of our claim boundary. So very simply, and your viewers can see that image that we have. Veta Madre comes down at about a 45-degree angle. The guys 100 years ago, the geologists in 1906 who wrote reports in favor of a New York Stock Exchange listing that Pinguico got at that time, knew about this. They just didn't have drilling technology that could test it. So that structure is going to come down, and at some point we feel very strongly that it's going to intersect with the Pinguico system, which is narrow but very good grade. So where the 25-meter stopes that Fresnillo was mining next door to us come in contact with that really high-grade material, and form some sort of deformation zone in the Earth's crust, that is a really great drill target. Now, we had, prior to us getting the opportunity to purchase El Cubo, we were thinking that we'd be drilling that target maybe right around now. Those plans have been pushed off into the future. Obviously, we're doing a whole bunch of different things. The other thing that is kind of cool, and it's difficult to see on the claim map, but they're part of this transaction with Endeavor, so that we buy El Cubo and we get these 7,000 hectares. There's one tiny little claim. I call it the postage stamp claim, right? And Endeavor had, well, I don't even think that the most of the folks at Endeavor actually knew that they owned it, right? Because it was a tiny little claim away from where they were working. But for us, it's perfectly situated for us to drill for Veta Madre. So over the last couple of months, as we've seen this kind of coming up, I'm going, well, why don't we do nothing for the time being? And when we own that little postage stamp, you'll be able to see it. And Andrew, if you go back up to the to our corporate presentation, and if you can find the slide that shows all of the claims. Is that easy to do? Sorry,
yeah. We just have a 1 minute.
Kind of surprised you there. Anyway, you'll be able to see it. You can see the that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
So you can see all of the blue. That's what we've purchased, right?
Yes.
And you can see the relatively small land package that Pinguico is. And then if you really got to zero in, there's a tiny little claim that's immediately to the northeast, but adjacent to our claims, called Entrar el Alvaral. And that is where we will be drilling our first holes, I think, to try and target Veta Madre.
Awesome. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see that tiny little splotch.
That's awesome. That's great.
My Mexican partners think it's funny when I call it the postage stamp claim.
It's just so much easier. Well, that is great. So now I wanted to make sure, because once again, I always try to find a unique story that, you've had an exceptional year already. I think at one point we were talking, you're at 8 or 9 cents. You're up at 50 or 55, but you've had higher as well. And that's to be expected. People are taking gains, as well as, you're into operations mode right now. But it's laying out that it's in commodities people are very excited about. They're getting more retail news about, especially silver. There's a very robust expectation for silver, I would say, as well. And it's such a key industrial metal as well. And this near-term production is a big deal to not only you're kind of wetting your beak, you've got the 2 projects that you can have ready to go, but it is that blue sky potential too, and it is this postage stamp. It gives a little bit of everything for everyone, instead of it just being a one-off project generator model or this kind of thing. It's more unique in the in the old school. We're going to actually have a mining company, and then we're going to build it and grow it.
Well, yeah, that's right. I'll just mention my Mexican partners, father-son team, Hernan and Gerardo Dorado. They're mining engineers. Both of them are graduates of the University of Guanajuato. Also, Ramon Davila, who joined our advisory board.
Yes.
Some months ago. Ramon, in my estimation, has the best CV in mining in Mexico. He spent 10 years as the chief operating officer of First Majestic. From a time when First Majestic had 2 employees, when it had 4,000.
Yes.
And from a time when it had no production to when it had about 12 million ounces of silver annual production. Yeah. Or silver equivalent. Ramon is going to have a bigger and bigger role with our company. And, it's that type of trajectory, Andrew, that we want to have for Vangold. There's all kinds of different things that we have to do now in terms of bringing more talent and more people to the company with regards to El Cubo. But there are a number of different opportunities for us within the Guanajuato area and further afield in Mexico. But we want to drive towards being a very significant player in Mexican silver and gold production.
Yeah, excellent. And you have added so much to the management team, the technical team, the advisory board. And that's, I mean, when you read it and people can go through and look on the website to all you've added, that's the next question someone asks, to go, can this team deliver? And I mean, it won't take anyone very long before they start rifling through and looking through and go, oh my God, look who's on here. So that's a key factor is you've got a project, this makes sense. You've got all these other check boxes checked off, and someone just looks and goes, can this team deliver? Absolutely. And that's, you've got the blueprint set out for everyone to look at, and you're just gonna be checking it off milestone after milestone, moving forward.
Well, we hope so. I mean, there's a lot of work in front of us, but you're right about the team. Good projects attract good people. It's not the other way around.
Yes.
And these are excellent projects. And speaking about Ramon, I got a chance to have a couple-hour conversation with him just a couple days ago. He's just visited Cubo again on the weekend for the first time in 20 years, and he was extraordinarily pleased with all of the shape of the mill, how good it looks, our ability to be able to put it back together and back into production quickly. Hearing that, I mean, it's one thing for me to think that. Hearing that from Ramon Davila, that gives me a lot of confidence to keep moving in the direction that we're moving.
That's awesome. Like it's such an exciting project. And I mean, for me, obviously, I haven't generated interest in this, but a question I kind of have for you, James, was, what do you think the best way to get guys that are in my kind of age group, that are in just getting introduced to the market, just getting interested in investing and stuff like that? What's the best way to kind of channel that energy and get it interested in mining, in junior mining, and this kind of path forward?
I think they are. I think this notion that young people, aren't interested in mining, aren't interested in our industry, aren't interested in precious metals. I don't buy that. I don't see it.
Yeah.
My children are 27 and 23. They are extraordinarily industrious. This myth that exists that the millennials are lazy somehow, it's mythical.
Yeah,
absolutely.
These are very hardworking, diligent people. They might work in ways that are a little bit different than people of my generation, but they're very, very hardworking. And so I'm not sure if I've got a good answer for you, because I think that there's a lot of people of that age who are interested in investing, interested in mining, and interested in precious metals. One thing that I will say, our society doesn't pay them enough. Our society doesn't pay people of that age bracket a living wage.
Yeah.
So if we want them to have some disposable income so that they can start investing for their future, maybe our society should start paying them a living wage.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I found too, even though over a couple of years, is that if once they're challenged and they're curious enough to think, and I'll use even like a Bitcoin. I'll say, listen, you can't have your Bitcoin unless you literally mine. You can't do that mining unless you do this mining first. Is that, it kind of get the shock, like, well, what are you talking about? What do you mean? Once they realize it, you see the end, like, oh my God, this is actually fascinating. And like, I mean, I've got Austin right here who picked up it right away. And I kind of had the same impression of you that, listen, this crowd is going to be disinterested. They're not, but it isn't. They're shifting and turning around very rapidly. And especially when they're associating lithium batteries and Tesla and this and that, right. They're starting to put it all together that, wait a second, and my thesis has always been, if we do this on home ground where there's heavy regulations, we're doing it correctly, we're doing it fair, back, in Mexico, North America, where we've got a strong tradition, we can do things correctly, that is a lot better than just letting it somewhere out of sight, out of mind, in the middle of nowhere where things can happen.
Yeah, I guess just a couple of comments regarding that. I mean, Bitcoin's price success of late, I think that's immediately reflective of the general investing public, whether they're young or whether they're old, of a repudiation of the type of fiat currencies that are how governments want us to do business and how they want us to save their money. And people say, well, no, we don't like that. We don't trust that.
Yeah.
So we're going to buy something. We're going to buy an alternative. And for some people, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies has been, that solution. For me, precious metals makes more sense. And I think, a debate about the comparative merits of those two things is probably beyond the scope of our discussion today.
Oh yeah.
But I get it. I understand why people look to something like Bitcoin and say, okay, well, I want to put some money there. The only thing that I will say about Bitcoin, which I think has not been in the news very much, and I think that people should know and understand it, the amount of electricity that's consumed in Bitcoin mining today, I find kind of objectionable. I saw a story a few weeks ago where the comparison was made to the amount of energy, the amount of electricity that is being used in Bitcoin mining was the same as what Argentina uses on a daily basis. And that's I think globally we all have to have a little scratch of our heads and say, well, I don't know that that's such a good idea. Obviously, some of that's coming from fossil fuels.
Yeah.
And what are we doing? We're powering computers to run through algorithms to produce something that is extremely ephemeral.
Yes. Yeah, I've heard a great way of explaining it, and we'll just wrap up that whole conversation. But it's interesting is that it's just an energy arbitrage. Like if you look at it a different way, you go, well, you just created a new product that's an energy arbitrage because it's consuming so much energy and requires a lot of computer power in order to do.
Okay.
We'll leave it. I won't take you down that road right now.
Yeah. I'm happier to talk about silver and gold mining.
So it's great. I'm glad we had you on, and we could talk all day about all sorts of fun stuff, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you. But this is such a unique and interesting story because you've gone. I mean, it may seem painful to you because it's long, but it isn't. You've done a lot in a very, very short period of time. And I really do believe you guys are going to continue knocking out of the park, hitting these milestones. And it's a company people need to be paying attention to because it has everything you want. You've got good commodities in a safe jurisdiction, infrastructure. You've got the team. You've got the two projects. You've got a mill. I mean, you've got it all lined up. It's just now it's hitting on the head, delivering, production, doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we can continue to work this way, we will be Canada's and Mexico's next producing silver and gold mining company, and that's a very exciting time. For Vangold, it's a very exciting time for me personally.
That's absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, James. Really appreciate you coming on,
gentlemen. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you real soon.
Take care.
Take care.